The Women's Six Nations Show on OTB SPORTS.
In association with Vodafone, proudly supporting the Irish women's rugby team.
We all belong to the team of us.
Yes, you're very welcome along. It's Aisling O'Reilly here with you for the OTB Women's Six Nations Show. It's a little bit different this week. We're coming live from the Vodafone HQ here in Dublin. Yes, as you can hear, we have a live audience joining us for the final show, and as usual, we're streaming across our OTB social channels. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by former Ireland internationals and Grand Slam winners. Fiona Hayes, how's it going?
How are you, Aisling?
Good now, not too bad. And Grace Davitt, how are you, Grace?
I'm good, Aisling.
Good stuff. Great to have you here in person, and nice to be here in Vodafone in a live show. It's pretty good. And this 2013 team where you won the Grand Slam, as I mentioned, there must be a special bond with that team, Grace.
Yeah, we actually have a WhatsApp group.
What? I'm not in that.
Well, and it's Once We're Warriors, and you know, it was Lynn Cantwell, the highest capped Irish player, kind of set it up, and you know, it is a really tight bond. It's, you know, players have been through it all with you, and it's the highs and lows, and how long it took you to get to that Grand Slam era. And it's amazing. You have your friends and family that really supported you and, you know, experienced the highs and lows with you, but it's the teammates that dragged you through, and you spent so much time with them on them years up to that success. And it's something I remember Lynn Cantwell saying, you know, in years to come, everyone fades and people don't know who you are, and you'll meet someone on the street, you know, that's been through it with you, and you just have that wry smile going, you know, we did something pretty special back then.
Absolutely. And Fiona, looking back now, as the years have passed, it must be amazing to know a Grand Slam winner. You know, Ireland haven't done it again yet, but it's amazing to know that you have.
Yeah, it's funny. At the time, you didn't think about it. Like, even when you did win it, it wasn't something. It's kind of afterwards now when we look back, or if you talk to other people about it, they're like, oh my God, you did this or you did that. And I told you the last time, Ash, and I still wear the all medal under my top on a night out to see if I can get any free drinks, you know. But yeah, it was a great time, great people. Training hardcore, you know, everything, and then to just come out at the end of that was just amazing. Like,
and then obviously we followed on in the 2014 and getting to a World Cup semi-final, beating New Zealand, and the brilliant memories. But for us as, you know, top athletes, we were so disappointed that we didn't, you know, beat England in the semi-final and get to a World Cup final. So at the time you're going, you know, are we that good? But it is that reflection looking back going, no, like, we did do something special. We were the senior team to get to first senior team to get to a semi-final.
Oh, absolutely. And mentioning England extended their record unbeaten run to 22 with a victory over Ireland. Unfortunately, at the weekend, it was 69-0 to England. Well, that was the final score there. It was a particularly tough defeat, Fiona, for Ireland.
Oh God, yeah. I was doing a bit in studio for it, and so optimistic at half time. I was absolutely going, oh yes, this is, because, you know, there's a lot of talk about the sevens players going, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on that later. But there was no one expected it. We all expected England. I was thinking, you know, anything under 30, 40 at half time would be great. So the defensive effort the girls put in, they were just they were giving it all. You could see big hits. We were cheering. Now England probably would argue they weren't at their best, but to win at 10, and it could have been 10-3 because we missed that kick in front of post as well. So it was really good. I was really buzzing at half time. I won't tell you what it was like at the end, but yeah, but at half time I was really good, and it just shows the whole professionalism of it all. Second half kicked in, and unfortunately the girls just couldn't keep up with the pace, and a few things obviously didn't go our way either.
No, yeah, definitely not. And for you, Grace, at half time, what was going through your mind? I know I was definitely thinking, yeah, a chance here.
So I was commentating for Virgin, and I was at the match, and it was amazing. You know, huge atmosphere. They had the music playing, they had the crowd roiled up, and everyone was just really building. And I think it was really good because it made it like real competitive. England have scored an average of 30 points per half in this Six Nations, so to hold them to 10 points is huge. They were still fighting for a bonus point, and then you were kind of going, can they hold off? You know, I believed, you know, from previous experiences and at halftime, knowing what you go through in there, is that they are going to come out like animals wounded, that they're not going to be happy with that they're going to feel that they were complacent, that everyone had written this Irish team off, that Ireland weren't happy with that, but England maybe sat back on their laurels a bit and were like, do you know what, if we're going to be world class and beat France next week, we need to go out here now. And you know, they just ranked it up a gear. You know, they realised what they were doing wrong and just put it up another level.
Yeah, that was absolutely the fear. And in that first half, they were camped within Ireland's 22 for the whole half. And they didn't really come away with a lot after all their dominance.
No, they didn't. And if you looked at the stats at half time, you were kind of going, okay, Ireland haven't really even got inside their half. You know, it was a crazy game of ball for it only to be 10-0. But I think that just showed the doggedness of the defence and the big shift the girls put in. I mean, Adele McMahon, I think by the end of the game, she was up about 24 tackles, but the majority of them was dominant. Neve Jones was another one. There was just players putting it all out there when it was almost like a wounded animal. You know, we talk so much about, what'll England win by? The girls kind of reacted as much as they could in that first half, and you really saw that they were kind of every little thing they cheered each other on. Set piece probably didn't go to plan in either half, but I just thought defence-wise they could have been proud of themselves for those 40 minutes anyway.
Yeah, and like I ended up staying in the hotel with the players, and you know, the next morning, and obviously media have been writing them off, and you know, I met some of the girls before the match, and they were really angry, like they were really annoyed, going, everyone's writing us off, they're not giving us a chance, and you know, one-on-one we can beat our opposite number. And I'm like, yeah, brilliant, like go out there, prove us all wrong, you know. But we're looking at it away from it, going, you know, this is professional versus amateur, and as much as you as an individual are going to give it 100%, there's all these other factors. But seeing that second half, like England were quite passive in the first half. You know, you say in rugby you have to earn the right to go wide. So if you just pass the ball wide, defences can just watch you and shift and push you into touch, and Ireland were able to do that really well. And in the second half, England had some big forward carries. You've seen the likes of Sarah Byrne and Marley Packer just hitting these big direct lines that sucks in 3 Irish players, and suddenly then one more phase, and then they were able to outflank Ireland. So they really troubleshooted that and figured it out, and came out with a different game plan the second half.
Yeah, and then we lost Doherty Walls. That was the first major blow that it was really tough to take, Fiona.
Yeah, the yellow card, the old sin bin, gone in, sitting in the bin. And there's nothing worse as well and I think it was in the first 6 minutes of that bin, 3 tries were scored. So it really hit Ireland hard. And I'm sure Dara was sitting there with her head in her hands. There's nothing you can do. Whether she was there or not, I think England were more clinical anyway. The pack absolutely kind of destroyed the Irish pack in the second half. They'd run out of gas, but definitely that yellow card kind of was the start to kick off England dominance. And when they got those consecutive tries, I think they just kicked on from there.
And then there was Nicole Cronin, there was Emer Considine, there was Sene. Like everything that could have went wrong sort of went wrong in the end.
Yeah, I think we counted 25 minutes in that second half where Ireland were down to 14 players. You know, so that's a lot, because in them last 20 minutes is where professional versus amateur really shows. And when you're down to 14 versus 15 for that length of time, the amount of tackles Ireland did compared to England, your body is broken. They were sucking Ireland in, and you're just working so hard. So it's really difficult against a world-class team. And this is the thing, you know, with high tackles, and we all know you're trying to wrap player on ball, and that's why players go so high. They don't want to get the offload, so you're taking a risk. I'll go high, I'll try and wrap them. And in this day and age, you know, we want rugby to continue on. You have the risk of so many concussions. And I seen Jess Breach's Instagram. She got 11 stitches through her whole eyebrow with that Doherty Wall tackle. And you have to look at player welfare and go, right, you know.
I think it was fatigue as well, when you're tired.
Yeah.
You know, like
the
body kind of goes, you know, you're getting low. That goes out of your mind when you go to that place, you know, of sheer tiredness when you're playing. It's like you're in a different, and things like, I'm sure Sene especially look back and be like, oh my God, like you don't even feel in your body that you haven't sunk. You're just so tired.
And does that bring us back to the professionalism versus the amateur again? As you said, the tiredness, you're going to make these mistakes. And obviously these girls are going out, they've worked the day before, the week before, all of those things. When England, they're in camp, you know, they're professionals.
Yeah, I think it was like Aoife McDermott put up a post like she was in the hospital like 9 a.m. on a Monday morning after playing 65 minutes against England. Look, it is what it is, you know, like that's like, but it's just it needs to be looked at now, because we're now seeing, like, over the years we might have got away with, you know, but the gap is getting bigger and bigger, and England, when Aoife's back in work, England are flying off to France to get ready for the game on Saturday. You know, they're able to chill out in the plane, legs up. Whereas the likes of Emer as well, in her leg, had to go back to work. So it's not right. If you want the gap to narrow, they really have to look at it. They have to. I'm not going to say here, hand out contracts, because the other thing is they don't have money. So some of these girls might only be on, like, we'll say for instance 14,000. Are you going to leave your job as a physiotherapist for that? So there's a lot of stuff in behind that they need to look at as well. Maybe getting a shorter weekday or something for them, and eventually go into having those full time for the younger girls that's coming through. But if we don't do it now, we're going to be way behind everyone else.
Yeah, and it's something that Wales highlighted, that even in a short period of time of them going professional, they've seen their numbers in the gym go up, like, you know, their weights in the squat, their bench press, their chin-ups, their conditioning, and it's down to that recovery time. Whereas when you get a limited weekend, we used to train like 4 sessions a weekend. So you drove down, you did 2 sessions, 1 session for an hour and a half on Saturday, and then Sunday, and it could be full contact. See, by Sunday afternoon, you were like, I would have been physically crying sometimes, where you were in so much agony, so much pain, because it's such a physical game. Whereas when you can do your weights and have a 2-hour sleep and get your food in, you're then set and ready to go for your skill sessions. You're more elite, you're better, you're fatigued, you can train under fatigue, but then rest after, and that constantly builds up. And then another aspect with professionalism is, you know, the England girls are playing club in Premiership. A lot of the Welsh girls are playing Premiership rugby. But when you look at Scotland, they're saying if they turned fully professional, where did their players play? And the same with Ireland. If you're training centralised in Dublin all week, then what do you do if you're going to play for the likes of Exeter or Wasps, like Edel McMahon and Aoife McDermott or Nicola Friday? You have to have that kind of club setup that you can go, right, you're centralised in Dublin, but you're going back to Cork or Belfast or Dublin to play your club.
Yeah.
So the club needs to be at a standard where it's competitive, and that they have that to feed into the international, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at as a whole, because it's quite unfair on the girls. You know, when you're watching it, you feel like this is an impossible task almost.
It's terrible. I remember even, like, I'm a youth worker in the Glen in Cork. You know, I work with the Garda Youth Diversion Project, and I'd be driving back after getting absolutely walloped by her on the way home, and I'd be sitting on a Sunday evening knowing that I'd have to get up at 9 a.m. and go into work, and, you know, you can't go in grumpy, and, you know, they'd be like, I'd be walking around like this, and it's soccer territory, so they wouldn't even understand. They'd be like, rugby, what's that? They'd be like, who plays that game? So I'd be just like, oh, just ignore me, I'm old. But it's such a difference, you know, to if I was able to go and put on those lovely boots that they put on now and sit myself in an ice bath, it could have been, maybe I could have been a lot better than I was. That's what I tell myself anyway.
And like I was the same, I had a quite physical job. I'm a maintenance technician in Belfast Harbour, so I climb cranes for a living. So I would have played a match. I'd go to the gym in the morning. We'd be doing chin-ups or snatches, and I'd go in and they'd be like, right, go up crane, and it'd be ladders, you know, 100 metres up, and my forearms would be killing me.
No recovery whatsoever.
And I actually got dropped in 2010 for the World Cup in 2010, and we had a training camp all weekend. And I drove back to Belfast. I was back in work on the Monday. And on the Tuesday, we had a container crane break down. And they were like, Grace, you're fit. You know, so we need a part from the other crane. So go down this crane, back up the other crane, get the part, see if it's that. So I think I was up before lunchtime 8 times up that crane. And drove to Dublin that evening and did a fitness test and got a really bad score and got dropped then for my fitness. And it's that whole, you know, what could have been different then if I had been going, resting, getting good food, sleeping, you know, not having to travel. I have no doubt I would have done like 10 times better, you know, and mental fatigue as well. So it all has its part to play, and it's it's tough. But like that, we get on, and look how well we did, and we weren't professional. So there is things you can do with a solid setup. And I know now with the independent review that things are being put in place that should be in place, whether professional or not.
I'm bringing it back to the Ireland-England game again, just to finish up on that. 40 minutes, Ireland did really well in that first half. Do you think that England would have came away thinking they were quite worried with their performance?
Yeah, well, I suppose you're not too worried if Ireland aren't getting in your half. So they done really well defensively. I suppose Ireland didn't even have the ball. England knew they had the ball. So when it's a situation like that, as I do a bit of coaching now, it's about getting them in and absolutely having a word with them about, wasting the ball or what they're doing with it.
Tell us what you say, Fiona.
Yeah, I will not. I can't say it here. No, but they knew, and I think they're together so long that they would have gone in disappointed. Coach mightn't even have had to say anything, because you know yourself. You go in there, the mood is low, so there were 10 points up, and the mood would probably be really low. So it's kind of, we would have had the likes of Fiona Coughlin, and I definitely won't tell you what she'd say, roaring at us or whatever, and you lift it yourself, and that's the whole thing about it.
And that's what they said, that Sarah Hunter, the England captain, she was the one who spoke at half-time. She did all the talking. And
that's the thing, as players, you can't have a coach on the pitch with you. So what at that elite level, what you're wanting is player-led. You're going to have to problem solve on the pitch, see why things aren't working. So you need to have that ability to figure it out yourself. So usually at half-time, you'll go into your units, you'll have all the backs together going, where was the space? What are we doing wrong? And
all the forwards going, why are the backs knocking on? We're sick of scrums.
Always the way.
Yeah, but I think it's a lesson learned for England, and I think it's probably come at a good time where they know now that against France next week that they won't be that complacent. They'll go out and make sure they play from the very start.
And then just from our Ireland point of view, the 7s, 15s debacle, we spoke about it last week, Fiona. It's quite a unique position for Ireland that there's a significant crossover of players. So we have to remember this too. That was quite tough. There was almost, 5 players went away to play 7s. It's a new squad almost with new girls coming in.
Yeah, and I suppose the thing to say here as well is that for years we wouldn't have had those 7s girls playing. So to have them playing, they're training every week was really, really good. But to have them playing for 3 games and then going for 2 games isn't the way forward. So it's how now they're contracted to 7s, and I'm sure they'd love to play, both. So it's what we're going to do with that going forward. In Ireland, I think it's 1,400 women are registered to play senior rugby in all the clubs. So compared to England and the rest, the player pool is quite small. So if you're getting paid, which the 7s are, they're directly going to that. So they're taken out of the club and they're going up to, if they're really, really good and really fast, maybe not the props, but everyone else is going directly up to the 7s. So they're developing in that game. And I think it's a shame because the players are so good. We saw Eve Higgins. She's probably one of the standout players so far. To have her against that England team in the midfield would have been huge. They said it at the start that they were going for the last 2 games, but I think kind of was glossed over, and we looked at performances, whereas now people are getting annoyed, and rightly so. So I think they need to get a structure in place and either have them in or out, or only playing 7s or 15s, or have a mix that works where they because I love 15s rugby, Ireland loves 15s rugby, and we watch the Six Nations, and it's being broadcast now. We want to show the best for our games, so we want the best players playing for all games.
It's such a pity to go out against the best in the world, to not have your best players on show. What have you made, Grace, of the whole situation?
Yeah, Ireland's in a very difficult situation. They're one of the Six Nations teams that have 7s and 15s. You look at Italy, Wales and Scotland don't have that. So the only other teams that have it are the professional teams, which are England and France. So that's where the difference comes in. If your boss sees that you're in the office and realises, we could get them to do another job while they're in this office, they're going to do that rather than bring someone else in. So that's what they're doing with their sevens. They're going, well, you're here all week. We can show you what to do all week and then get you playing at the weekends. Whereas with the 15s, they just don't have that balance where they're only getting them for a very short period of time to train them. So I can understand why they're bringing the sevens in, because they can build them up. But you have to look at the very start and go, well, what is it we're wanting to achieve with this Six Nations squad? You know, Greg has said very early at the start that, you know, this is building again for the next 4 years. So if it's building for the next 4 years, then why have the sevens in? Let's build then. If it's building for the next 4 years, then why bring Sene in at very late for England? You know, so you're kind of contradicting yourself, and I think you have to stay very true to what your plan is, and if you vary off it, to let people know why that is. Like, obviously I heard at the weekend that they brought Sene in, that she's such a defensive player, that she's a big tackler. Obviously she was on the rogue side of the result with that, but the thing about it is then have her in at the very start. But it's really difficult. For me, I would love, and I know with the recommendations now it's something, but there's always been a pathway for sevens. If a girl plays under 18s into provincial and she has a talent, she gets into the Irish sevens setup. But you can see how important front five players are in 15s. You need your props, you need your hookers, you need your second rows. So just relying on sevens players and not developing those front five, front eight players is detrimental to the 15s game.
Yeah, I thought the Sene situation was so odd because, as Greg Williams has said, he's trying to build. So I don't understand bringing a player in to a squad that has that much experience. Why wouldn't she be there from the start, you know, to lead and to... Yeah, it was just a mad situation. Obviously, she was on the wrong side of the tackle the last day, but just to have her around, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you looked at it from the outset, and when he didn't talk too much about her, but he just didn't include her in the squad. So you're going, okay, he's trying to build the kids, and you go, okay, pat in the back. I like this. We're going forward. Like, Sene has been a great servant, and she really wants to be in there. And she's probably played good enough rugby, and she played the AIL this year as well. But you can see the direction he's going in. He would have known that after 3 games that he's losing essentially his whole back line. So with the new systems and how he plays, I think ideally I would have had her in, whether she started or didn't start, had her around. She's a very positive type of person, you know. She's really she talks a lot when you're beside her, when you're playing with her. She's good to have there. So even having her around, talking to young ones, getting them like through things, you know, whether she would have liked to be in that role or not, I don't know. Maybe she wanted to start, maybe she wanted to play, but to bring her late in was strange for me. But to be fair to her, she did put in a massive defensive 40 minutes in the first half, especially. I thought she made really good defensive reads as well.
Yeah, but you're trying to build cohesiveness in a team, and if I'm there and I've trained, you know, since January, and I'm you know, bust myself, and I'm trying to get there and I'm not getting picked, and then I see someone just come in ahead, you're kind of going, how does that build the morale in the team?
Big time, yeah.
You know, if you see someone being promoted ahead of you, you're going, I've just done all the dog work for so long and I'm not getting my opportunity. I think you need very clear communication on that, where you need to talk to those players and say, you know, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, you know, it's nothing against you. Or I think they need to be very clear to make sure that you have that cohesiveness as a squad.
And something that's been really positive across all of the Six Nations is the record crowds that we've been seeing. It's unbelievable. There was 15,836 people that attended the Ireland-England game. You know, Fiona, this is massive to see this many people coming out.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge for the game. And that's why those score lines, you know, are kind of like... people are looking at it and going, do you want to, as an Irish sport, do you want to go and watch that every Six Nations? Do you even want to watch it on telly? You probably don't. But we can see they have a chance now to build that because the people want to come. I was down in Musgrave Park. Grace, you were over in England, but those players, all the girls, they stayed out with all the kids, you know, after the game. You're sore, they stayed out with the kids. Obviously, it was a win, but I'm sure they done the same over in England. They signed autographs. You know, I've said it before, I never had a female sporting role model growing up. You see all these kids and they know their names. They're like, there's Nicole Cronin. Now, Nicole's the same size of all the kids, but they're like, yeah, there she is, our Sam Monaghan, you know, and it's... I'm standing back going, this is brilliant,
It's a
like, to
massive
watch
change.
it,
Yeah.
to see these kids know the names, and even their dads have them out. It's not just the moms, it's like the whole family is there. So the people are given and they're coming to the games. Now we've just got to get the rugby right.
And the thing about it is, in such an expensive world that we're in right now, you know, if you want a day out and you want to do something, it's you know, it is an expensive day out to go to a Six Nations match. You go to a women's match like that, you can bring the whole family for the price of maybe one ticket for a men's game and get a really entertainment. You know, Haskell was saying that after the game in Leicester at the weekend, what an atmosphere it was. Everyone was so happy, so friendly. I mean, at halftime, everyone's clapping along.
Yeah.
Everyone stayed.
He said that because he gets abuse at the men's
Yeah.
games. So none of the women abused him. He said it was great.
And what England did, you know, it was the anniversary of England winning the 1994 World Cup.
World Cup, yeah.
So what they did was, any players back in that era that hadn't been given caps, they presented them with caps, and they presented them caps for their county. So if they play, it would split into counties back then. There was some of them there had been a Lionesses team back, like in the age. There was one. I was talking to Giselle Maher, who's ex-English and Wasp head coach, and she had this GB, like a Great Britain, and I was like, how is there a Great Britain English?
Yeah.
And they all had these amazing caps, and the match was over, as Fee says. Everyone was signing autographs. The Irish girls were doing their first cap presentations. And next thing, you could hear this whole stadium lifting. You were like, what was it? And all these English, I think there was 400 English women were singing Snoop John B. And you were like, oh my, like, I mean,
Wow.
it was so eerie and so amazing all. And this is what you want from the women's game. You want the media coverage. You want the criticism to drive you better. You want competitive games, you know, and I hope everyone makes an effort to go to Scotland, Ireland in Belfast. Come on up. It's great up here. You get a good weekend, make a good weekend out of it, and come up and experience it.
Are you getting money off Discover Belfast or something?
Yeah, visit Belfast. Brilliant city.
You all have an invite now. As we know, we're live here in Vodafone HQ, and the OTB Six Nations show is with thanks to Vodafone, proudly supporting the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. So Fiona, each and every week you bring us your team of the week. Fiona has a tough job. You take it away and tell us your 15.
Yeah, so obviously the pack was dominated by England this week. So I had the loose head Cornborough. Niamh Jones, the Irish hooker, was excellent, I thought, especially around the park. And Sarah Byrne, the tight head for England, her usual self, absolutely amazing with ball in hand. With Scotland, I thought Emma Waisel in the second row, she got a really good try for them. Probably one of her quieter games, but she was still really good and commanding in the line out. Medusa Fall, in my Limerick accent, as Grace says. She was quite good as well. At 8, I had Menage. And of course, look, Grace is going to point this out, so I'm going to point it out. There was 2 back rows. They both played 7, but I couldn't. They were both excellent. Marley Packer for England was brilliant, but I had to get our own Adele McMahon in there as well. She was so good. Laure Sansu. There you go, French again.
Or San Six, as she's been named now for 6 tries.
Oh yeah, has been excellent, and I thought her partnership with Jessie Tremoule at 10 really pushed France on in that game. Emily Scarrett, obviously her 100 cap, she was absolutely immense, especially in the second half, she came alive. Solari also played 13, but she was outstanding for Italy. She really got them the win against Scotland. Defensively, she was everywhere, and just her carries were immense that day as well. I went with Boujard on one wing for France, and Chloe Jacquet from France scored an absolute belter of a try as well from inside her own half, so she was quite excellent. And Ellie Kildone actually didn't start for England, but I thought when she came off the bench, her footwork, she really got into that Irish defence, and I thought she was really good as well. So Grace now is going to pick at the backs and give me
Yes, such an impressive team, Grace. Is there anyone that you would change?
Yeah, like I know, obviously.
Straight in.
What's fun if it's not like, controversy? But
Just don't go near the front row because you don't know anything
like
about
I
that.
don't know. But, Jacquet, did brilliant at 15. But I have to say, being in Leicester and seeing the work off the ball of Helena Rowland, she was unbelievable. This is a player that played at the start of the Six Nations at out half. Then she moved to centre, was unbelievable at centre. And because of the injury last week of Abby Dow, she went in at 15. And I mean, this woman is electric. Her footwork, her pace. They actually put a video up of her there after the game, and it was when she was like 12 playing against the boys, and her footwork and how she beat them up the wing. And it's unbelievable what she can do. She's so fast, and I think that's the danger with Ireland. Ireland couldn't kick out of their own 22. And when you're kicking to the likes of Helena Rowland, it just pins you back in. And we seen in the second half when Enya Breen kicked to her, she was just able to eat up the pace, hold people in. She straightens up really well and preserves that space outside her. So I thought she was another contender in for that 15. But like that, you don't know where you're going to see her because she's such a versatile back. Totally
There's more.
Yeah.
There is more. I won't tear too much apart. Like obviously there's been some amazing players. I do love Alex Matthews. I think she's a brilliant player for England. She played number 6 for them. She's really strong in the line out and her work rate and her physicality around the pitch. But Niamh Jones, love Niamh Jones, coached her at Malone, played with her at Ulster. Amazing around the park. Her tackling technique was immense. Her work rate, but like Lark Davis for England has been immense. Like she scored 2 tries off the back of a maul. Obviously, you say, well, that's pretty easy. You're just standing at the back of the maul, but she has to throw that ball in, control it, manage it, and 2 tries against Ireland, and she's been quite successful with the amount of tries she has. But she's a really strong contender for hooker as well.
Yeah, really impressive. And as we know, this weekend then it's Ireland versus Scotland at Belfast Kingspan Stadium. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff there. The final game of the Six Nations. It's crazy to think this is where we are already. As we know, Scotland, they were beaten by Italy on Saturday 2013, and they have now only won once so far. So Fiona, I suppose home advantage as well in Belfast. We'll be hoping that Ireland get their second win.
I think this is a must-win. I think they need to win this game. They obviously lost to Scotland in the qualifiers, so they've held on to that. Some of them played in those games, so now you've a chance to go out and fix that. I thought Scotland looked stronger at times, but watching them that last week against Italy and the way they played, I think Ireland definitely can attack them. The only issue is the lack of backs that are available at the minute with injuries, red card, Seven's gone. So I know there's exciting players that are waiting on the fringes to come on, but I definitely think it's doable for Ireland, especially up in Belfast. There you go, shout out for Belfast. And look, their number 8, Jade Congal is her name. She's missing. She's going to be out she was out for the Italy game, and she's going to be out for this game with injury. And I think you really saw what she brings by her not being there against Italy. They struggle sometimes getting the ball out of the scrum. She plays with Harlequin. She's like the centre of their whole team. I really feel like she controls everything. So that's a good thing for Ireland as well.
And because of injuries and girls away to the Sevens, do we have any idea how they're going to line out?
Grace is going back in, yeah.
I'm with my glass back on my broken knee.
Coming down from them cranes, she's going
I don't think
in.
they've enough tape to get me back on the pitch. But yeah, it's going to be really difficult. With Sene, obviously, is now going to probably be banned for next week. You'd look at a minimum 2 weeks ban. So, she's going to be gone. Nicole Cronin was really struggling with injury. Emer Constantine had a very serious knee injury as well. So, you look at quite a depleted squad with the Sevens away. We've seen 2 new caps. We've seen Scuffle McCabe start at 15. And then we've seen Niamh Byrne come on the wing. So, they've broke the back of their first cap. They'll be wanting to get another opportunity against, a less formidable team. And you might see the likes of Michelle Claffey starting at centre. I think Enya Breen did really well when she came in at out half. She's got a good boot, so she can clear her lines a lot more. And she was very good at reading it.
I think they'll change that. So I was talking about this, and we were talking about it inside. Enya came into 10, and she was really, really good. but I think there's a real lack of centres. That's the issue. So Anya has played 12 in the thing. So they do have a girl, and Grace, you'd know her well, Nikki Coy, that played with Ulster. Has been kind of waiting in the sideline. She's been in the camp since the start. So I think she definitely would be one to come in.
And like that, Nikki Coy, you know, has been there. She played 7, she played 15. She's had a bit of issues with injuries over the years. But if you could have those two kind of out half positions, so you could have Nikki Coy in a 10 where Enya Breen can slot in. You've Shannon Toohey, really strong Connacht player over the years. She's now playing her rugby in England. She has been in camp as a centre as well. So you might see the likes of Niamh Byrne starting. I'd like to see Laura Sheehan get an opportunity again. You know, she is capped for Ireland. She was involved in the Six Nations last year. Lightning. Is it Exeter she plays?
She's gone over to Exeter. I coached Laura from when she started rugby in UCC, and she made her way up, and she's played with Exeter this year, and she's been absolutely lighting it up over there. She didn't make the squad, so he brought her into the last camp. But she's definitely someone who'd have experience, and like obviously learned all her speed and footwork from me. So I'm proud.
So she's flying. It is a really strong squad. You know, when you name out all these girls that are coming in, like it is a massively strong squad. But I suppose what I'd normally ask, coming close to the end of Six Nations, they have a few games under their belt. What learnings can Ireland take now into the next game? But it's quite hard to ask that question when you have girls that are stepping up for the first time. There's new players coming in. But I suppose from your experience, Grace, having a tough defeat against England, to now park that and just focus and concentrate on Scotland, how tough is it to do that?
Yeah, I think they're going to take great solace in the England game. You know, your 15s game is only as strong, and I'll give Fiona credit here, is your pack. Like, if you don't have a good set piece, and now Ireland struggled in the second half with their set piece. I think they lost 5 line-outs, 5 scrums in that whole match. If you haven't got good go-forward ball, it doesn't really matter who your backs are, bar defensively. You need to have them forwards. And I think if they build up that cohesiveness again, regroup and get the line out. And I think the line out and scrum will function a lot better against Scotland, you know, because England are just so big, so powerful. You look at the likes of the subs they brought on. They brought on Poppy Keel, you know what I mean, who's immense, you know, just so...
Amy Cockayne as well.
Amy Cockayne, like, she came on, you know, she's over 60 caps for England, and she's coming off the bench, so, like, even for the full 80 minutes. So I think Ireland will take great solace in it. You would hope the pack have good cohesiveness now, and then it's just about the back line getting confidence together, and they know they can do it now. You know, they know they were able to hold England. They've scored really good tries. Yes, they were the Sevens girls, but you hope that confidence grows, that they realise it's a game of rugby and they can go out and beat their opposite number.
Yeah, we really hope they can get their second win of the Six Nations. Just a reminder to keep an eye on Wednesday Night Rugby each week. We're giving away tickets to every home game for the Women's Six Nations. It's your last chance this week. It's with thanks to Vodafone, proudly supporting the Irish women's rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. So lastly then, so just the tournament as a whole, it's been really positive, I suppose, Fiona, just to see the tournament as a standalone competition.
This is the best I've ever seen it. Like, it's all over the media. You're all here today. You know, it's so good for women's rugby. I think TikTok being a sponsor and coming on was huge. You know, not that we know anything about TikTok, but then to have an actual sponsor,
you're not that old, Fiona. Come on.
I won't tell you my age. But to have an actual sponsor is so good for the tournament, and they really like. I think we talked about this before, but like, you're watching matches live and the clips of tries are released within a few seconds. Like, we can't even find footage of what we've done before. You know, you wouldn't see that, or you might be waiting 3 days to review a game. So they've really got that. They're profiling players. As I said, the kids know the names. The crowds are coming out watching it. It's a real kind of family occasion. And I think it being separate to the men's tournament, I wasn't sure at the time. You know, in the 20s, I liked the idea, and that's the way we played. So you like, you know, I don't like change. So I was like, you know, but it's been really, really positive, because now people can switch from the men's Six Nations and get out and try and support the women's. They mightn't go to all the games, but they're on television and it's there to look at. So
and I think it's a good transition. I think tying in with the under-20s and the men's and following the same pattern had its purpose. You know, it highlighted that women played rugby and, you know, you travelled to the same places and, you know, people were aware. Like, it gave opportunities. I played in Murrayfield. You know, we went out in Twickenham after England beat Ireland with 80-something thousand there and not able to hear yourself. You know, so it made you experience those things that you never would have experienced as a woman's player, because you had a man, your dog, and your mum and your cousin at the match, and that was it.
And your neighbour.
And your neighbour. So, like, for now, you know, that played its purpose. It highlighted the women's game, and I think now transitioning and you know, you have to thank COVID for that and going, right, bring it its own window. It's now not competing with television coverage with the under-20s, you know, crowds wanting to go to Cork for the under-20s, but Dublin for the women's game. So, you know, have it stand alone. It shows that people do watch women's sport.
Yeah.
You look at how we're breaking crowds, you know, breaking the numbers. As I said, I hope to see a lot of people get into Belfast, go support the women, go see a great match. And you look at the like of Leicester, they're saying now, you know, with this English women's team, the support that they've got and the infrastructure they've put in play, that they're saying now the club stadiums are going to be too small for them. Like, that's an amazing problem to have. You know, they're like, right, when it comes to an England World Cup, are they going to have to start playing in Twickenham? That's brilliant and that's amazing. And I think just the more you can see it, the more women, girls will start playing rugby. You know, as you said, you have your idols, your role models, and people can, when you see it and you know, well, that's my club player. And the thing with Ireland now is they had sevens, interpros, under 16s, under 18s at the weekends. They had an under 16s, under 18s Six Nations. You know, they're seeing 17-year-olds going playing for Ireland, and they're like, I'm 12, I can actually do that. Like,
It's
I know
possible.
her.
I can do it, yeah.
You know, I know somebody that does that, and that's amazing. And what that does is it just brings more players in from schools and clubs.
And the summer tour as well, out in Japan. Like, that was reported this week. That's amazing to see that happening.
Oh, that's unbelievable. I would have loved that one, yeah. Look, it's great. You know, I think summer tour was Kinsale Sevens for us when we used to go on this summer tour. But no, it's the way the game should be going. They need to go play these teams. Japan would be there. They've already played them, so they'd be thereabouts. They know they're not going over getting walloped. They know it's competitive, so it's brilliant. Really ideal.
And that's the thing, like, I played for Ireland for a decade, right? 10 years of brutality on this body. But I got 56 caps, right? And you look at the likes of Sarah Hunter, and she's still in the game. You see Emily Scarrick get 100 caps. They played so many test matches. We got 5 games a year. You know, if we were lucky, if we had friendlies before the Six Nations, they were uncapped, and they'd say, right, we'll bring 30 players in, and it meant you could rotate a lot more, but you didn't get a cap for them games. So to get opportunities to play in that test environment, you know, it's going to build your experience. You're not just going into a cold. And we've seen what the problem with the World Cup qualifiers was. They had 3 false starts with COVID. They thought they were going to the qualifiers. It didn't happen. They were back. They thought they were going. They didn't. And then by the time it happened, they'd no games. Yeah. They hadn't played club games. They hadn't played any international matches. And they went in so cold that they underperformed. And you know, that's a big key point of why they're not going to that World Cup. So I think the more international matches, and it all comes down to money and funding and ensuring that they're getting the funding to have them games played. Yeah,
and that's what you need. You need game time, and it's not the only tour that we're going to see as well. The men's team are going to be going out to New Zealand as well, so that's going to be epic to watch them.
Yeah, I was just waiting on Munster to confirm the women's interpros are in January, and I'm off for the month myself. I'm going to go over and watch them. So I have a friend living over. I have a friend living in Dunedin, so I haven't seen her in years over COVID. I'm godmother to her child, so hopefully I'll get over and get the games in as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Brilliant. And if I had to ask you both before we finish up for the best Six Nations experience that you've had personally, Grace, what would it be for you?
Me personally, not this Six Nations.
Yeah.
Have playing.
On the spot now.
It's hard to tie it down to one. I probably have a few, but big one for me was, people probably remember Brian O'Driscoll's big send-off in the Aviva for his last game. I remember it as my 50th cap. Only time that the Irish women's team played in the Aviva, and I got to lead out the team that day for my 50th cap against Italy in the Six Nations in 2014. So that was a really special moment, because I remember players that I played with over the years, when we won the Grand Slam in 2013, were like, surely you'll retire now, like, you know, you're old and you're, you know, you're broken really. And I says, no, I still have goals, you know, that I wanted to do, and big one was my 50th cap, and another one was making amends for the 2010 World Cup. So thankfully I did that in 2014, and being part of a really strong team. The other one was probably, you know, obviously the Grand Slam. It wasn't the nicest rugby. It was the first match that had been televised, and, you know, it was a real shock to people to see the conditions we played in. But weirdly enough, the conditions were brilliant in the warm up to that game. When we got to Parbiago, just outside Milan, it was beautiful, sunshine. It was crisp. It was cold. But Goose and Greg kept saying, you know, it's going to snow on Saturday, it's going to snow. And we were like, yeah, whatever. But the psychology of it got into our heads. And then when it came, woke up and it was snow and it was freeze. And we were like, oh, right, they were right. And we were but like, for a 6-3 win in a Grand Slam match isn't the most exciting. But to say that you gritted it out in you know, those conditions, had cold showers after the match, they hadn't even got hot water after, you know.
Your hands must have been like,
oh, you couldn't. It got to a point, as Fee said, with the backs knocking the ball on, that you knock a ball on. I remember me and Lynn just looking at each other and laughing, going like, I can't feel anything, you know. So, but amazing, after all the years of being brutalised in Six Nations and losing games, to see your family in the crowd, and for them to experience what you've been through, and the knocks I've been through, real bad injury, and been down and out and pulling myself back up, to see the happiness in them that you stuck it out, and to raise a cup, and to actually experience winning a Grand Slam. I remember the start of that Six Nations, I went home, and it just shows you the support you got. But I went back home, and it was the first train session. Well, how did you get into the train session? You know, first Six Nations camp, brilliant. I said, we set our goals, we're going to win the Six Nations. And I got laughed at, and I went, no, you don't understand, we're going to win the Six Nations. And thankfully we were, the rest is history.
You say that every year, go in.
I was able to back it up that time. What about you, Fee? What's your best memory?
On the pitch, yeah.
Yeah, we'll not talk about it. We'll not talk about it.
Look, 2013 is obviously huge, but that was my first season, so I kind of was just getting adjusted to camp. So when we won the Six Nations 2015 in Scotland, massive score, it was just huge for me. My dad was in the crowd. Maz, I think, done a river dance around the place, and it was just brilliant.
Oh, wow, amazing. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. A huge thank you to Vodafone HQ for having us in these amazing facilities. My thanks to Fiona Hayes, Grace Davitt for joining me, producer Catherine, all the OTB team, and finally, we want to wish Ireland the very best of luck this weekend in their game against Scotland. Thank you.
The Women's Six Nations Show on OTB Sports.
In association with Vodafone, proudly supporting the Irish women's rugby team.
We all belong to the team of us.